This is the first interview I've done since I started editing all the other interview videos.
Oh, okay.
So how I am doing is swamped in editing. I didn't realize, like I should have, like I do this to myself all the time where I like don't think projects fully through all the way.
The workload side of it.
The workload side, because I definitely
Yeah.
could have gone maybe uploading 30-minute videos every weekday might be a bit much. But I didn't do that. I just decided that that was what I was going to do, and I so far have been pretty good with doing it. So that's my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're putting up like significantly what's the word? Lengthed videos of significant length.
They are significant. I guess
Okay.
I think the original idea was I'm gonna upload these videos. They're gonna be like between 5 and 10 minutes. That was the original conceit.
Okay.
But it turns out when you're communicating information via language, sometimes it takes a bit longer. Because I was like, oh, like a 10-minute piece is kind of a long piece, but like a 10-minute conversation is nothing.
Right. That's a good comparison.
Yeah, so it didn't work out. But also one of the things that all this editing has brought to my mind is how often I say totally.
Yeah. It's brutal when you listen to yourself talk a lot. I've had similar things about my speaking that, oh my gosh, that's the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is going to be a weird interview, I think, because I'm going to be consciously trying not to say and uhs a lot. And if you say something that I agree with or that I think is cool, I will not say totally. I won't do it.
Okay. Okay.
So that's
So so my goal has to be to try to get you to say totally.
this. If you want.
What's
if
the
you want the interview to
adverbial
go this way.
form of total?
Oh gosh, big news, right? Big news.
Big news. Are we talking about what are we talking about? The album?
Well, okay, yes. We are talking about Pictures at an Inhibition coming out on the 30th. So that's good. And Ed RosenBerg III, I haven't said your name yet in this interview. I need to do that. Ed
That's my name.
played on one of the tracks on this album called Going So Soon. And he did a darn good job, I would say.
Hey, thanks, man.
So, yeah. So be sure to get this from your local CD emporium and give it a spin and listen to all the good sounds coming out of that. So that is one of the big pieces of news, but also I think a big piece of news is the birth of your child,
yes.
Indigo.
That is big news.
That was big
Boy.
news.
Yeah, that was a pretty big thing that happened.
Yeah. So how long ago was that now?
That was a little over 7 weeks ago. It was March 2nd.
Wow.
He was born.
Does
Yeah.
it feel like exactly 7 weeks?
Man, time is weird with a newborn, I'm learning. I have 2 older sisters, and they both have 3 kids each who are older. And so one of them, I think, said to me, it simultaneously feels like time is going slow and fast. Like
Yeah.
that was their advice to me or little tip before he was born. But it's really proven to be true. Like every day is long in the sense that it's always, focused on him and what he needs, which of course is awesome and super fun. But, it's just very focused on that.
Sure.
So every day kind of has a long feeling to it. But then, yeah, all of a sudden it's been almost 8 weeks,
Man.
which that, thinking of it in the bigger terms, feels very fast to me. Like, holy cow, it's almost been 2 months.
Sure. So what do your days look like now?
Well, my partner teaches music in public school, but she is teaching remotely right now, which is advantageous for this situation because she can be at home with the baby.
Mm-hmm.
So usually the first half of the day, I stay at home and I watch the baby while she teaches. She finishes teaching, we sort of exchange baby, and then I come to my studio, which is on the other side of the park, which is where I am now, and I spend a few hours here, usually teach a couple lessons, do some writing, whatever projects I'm working on, and then I head back for, dinner-ish time. Then we give the baby a bath, feed him, put him to bed, and then once he falls asleep, we try to go to sleep as soon as possible.
Oh, wow.
So I'm often going to sleep around 9 now, or trying to.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy, but it makes sense because he could be up any number of times through the night, which means that we will be up any number of times through the night. So it's this hilarious race. Like, oh my God, he's fallen asleep. Everybody go to the bathroom. Like, we're going to bed. we're shutting it down. But it's really fun. He's changed so much already in 2 weeks. He's gained weight and he started smiling, and yeah, it's great. Sorry to go on and on. I don't know how long that on and on actually was. Maybe it was just like 2 minutes or something, but I feel self-conscious about talking about fatherhood because I feel like everybody probably says the same stuff. I have nothing new to add to the subject other than it's really great. I enjoy it. I'm having a blast.
Good. Yeah, no worries about rattling on. This is a good space for rattling. And while, fatherhood and that experience may be nothing new to fathers, I believe, as far as the people I've interviewed so far, that you are the only one with child. So,
oh really?
As far as like the playlist goes, once all of these are compiled, yours will stand out, and that'll be a unique feature of your interview, as far as I can see. I can already see it in the title. I can already see it there. So no worries.
Ed RosenBerg, father.
Hailed by the New York Times as a father.
One of billions.
So how did you settle on the name Indigo? Was it just a color that you liked? Could it have been yellow? Could it have been any, whatever favorite color it was?
My partner, she has always liked the name Indigo. She has an older daughter. The way my emphasis was weird on that sentence. An older child who is a daughter.
I see.
Whose name is not Indigo.
Oh, that's handy.
So that meant that the name Indigo was available.
Still open.
Because my full name is Edward John Rosenberg III, there was the question of, hey, is this a scenario where we continue the tradition and have a fourth?
Oh, I see.
It's a heavy choice when you're a third. You know what I mean? Because I feel like there's a lot of juniors, like the seconds.
Sure.
There's a lot of juniors out there. But then once the junior, my dad, makes the decision to make the third, then the third has the pressure.
Do you continue
of ending
the succession?
Or continue?
Yeah.
Exactly. The line of end words. And so I was very reluctant to continue the line because I didn't want it to be so focused on my side of the family, the name. And so what we ended up deciding, but I really liked the name Indigo as well. So what we ended up deciding was we decided to just kind of have it all. So his full name is Indigo Edward Rosenberg IV.
Wow.
So he's got the name Edward. So we decided that counts.
That works. That works. It's still in there.
Yeah. So he's like the fourth Edward. You know what's funny? A funny thing about being a parent that I had never really thought about was that, so you're in the hospital, there's a baby that was just born a few hours ago, and they give you all this paperwork to do. And you're kind of out of it a little bit. I shouldn't say you were. I should make it about me.
Yeah, I wasn't there. Just to clarify, to clarify to people watching, I had nothing to do with this, I swear.
You were there, and you were so out of it.
I think you were drunk. I don't know
what
was
weird.
going on.
It was weird. We were very out of it. It had been a couple days, not a lot of sleeping on sofas and stuff. But then they give you this paperwork, and it's like, what's his name? Do you want a social security number? All this sort of important stuff. And like, this is it. Like, this is the birth certificate that you're filling out.
Wow, yeah.
And there's nobody like guiding you through this. There's nobody over your shoulder telling you what to do. So when we were kind of talking about the name and deciding on whether to include the fourth, well, I'm looking at this page and I was thinking, we could just write anything. He could be the 10th. We can just decide. Nobody's like, there's no council that is going to like be upset that it's not following some like real line of succession or some rules about how names are passed down.
Sure.
When I sort of saw it that way, I was like, oh yeah, so if we want him to be the fourth, then he's the fourth. We just
like
decide.
Yeah. You could even put like sir at the front.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do.
Doctor. Just make him a doctor at birth.
Just speed up the process.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Save you a lot of trouble.
Oh my, all the money and the years and years of study.
Time.
That's quick. On the topic of your name, I'm fascinated by your name, Edward RosenBerg III. And I feel like, first of all, every time, like every recital, every little thing at Stony Brook, someone would say Edward RosenBerg III, and there would be a collective chuckle. Like every audience everywhere would go, like, right. How have you lived with that?
How have I lived with it? It certainly doesn't bother me if people laugh at the third. The third is kind of a funny thing. It adds a certain formality that is maybe less common, I guess. Yeah, and I feel like my name is kind of long too. So then there's just like Rosenberg, it's like a long last name, Edward, the full like sort of formal full first name.
Thing. Yeah.
Edward RosenBerg III. It feels very formal, which I think is maybe why people laugh.
Yeah.
Or they have other reasons for laughing. I don't know.
Maybe. I think part of it is when we think the third of a person, right? There's a certain, I feel like there's a certain platonic ideal of what that person is and what they look like. Okay. Like a small, chubby boy in a suit.
That's
like,
what you think of for a third?
That's what I think. Like blank the third is like a small, chubby boy in a suit is what I see. And I think perhaps it's just that you don't necessarily fit the image of what we think of as a third being in a way.
Wow, that's interesting. I never thought of that.
Another question I had. Why is the B in Rosenberg capitalized? Is that just another birth certificate decision? I guess you could just do that, right?
That one, yeah. That one actually, I don't think it's actually on my birth certificate. It's something that my dad's dad, who would be my grandfather, I think he just decided to do it. He just decided to start doing it. For some reason. Maybe he liked it. He just decided to do it. And then we just all kept doing it.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of funny things with that too. Because, just a random capital letter in the middle of a name like that, it really throws things off. And sometimes it causes problems. Things like, I think it was when I was graduating high school, there's some form to fill out. How do you want your name exactly to appear on your high school diploma? So I wrote it out with the capital B, and then they called my house. They didn't believe the capital B. So the school called me, or called my parents. We're like, there's this capital B, doesn't make sense. Is this real? And my parents had to confirm it.
Wow.
So there's been little versions of that a lot throughout my life where, there's a second email, like the first email where I write it out, and then the second email, it's like, wait a minute, is that really a capital B? Yes. Okay. So there's been a lot of like double takes about the capital B.
Sure.
I think it's just kind of fun. I don't feel that stressed about it if it's not in a place. For example, I'm looking at my name on Zoom and it's not capital B.
Oh gosh.
And it's okay.
And that's not eating you up inside.
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay. I was watching a video you posted a little while ago, maybe more than a little while ago, but you did a cover of a song by Talk Talk.
Oh yeah.
And so I know you through Stony Brook University. If people have been watching these videos, they're getting real tired of hearing that because like so many so many of the people
A lot
on
of
the
Stony
album,
Brook people.
a lot of Stony Brook people, especially a lot of Roots Ensemble people. So I won't go down that rabbit hole for the 5th video. But I knew you at Stony Brook as a composer and as a saxophonist. And so I was pleasantly surprised in this video to see you playing a whole bunch of other things. You just got a whole kind of jamboree of instruments in your little storage locker, wherever you're at.
Storage locker. Yeah, so that video. Yeah, I did make that video.
Yeah, you did.
That's a song that I've always really liked, and it works perfectly for the bass sax to play that bass line, because it's the key that the song is in. The low note of the bass line is the lowest note on the bass sax.
Perfect.
So it just lays really well on the bass sax, so I always liked playing it. And with this whole time of not being able to play with other people, I've just been doing a lot of that sort of thing, just recording as many different bits as I can. And so I thought it'd be fun to try to do a sort of one-man band cover of a song. And so I tried it.
I think it worked out pretty good.
Thanks.
There's a fair amount of video editing going into that too, I suppose.
Do you know the Acapella app?
Oh yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes those sorts of videos really easy because it lays out a template grid for you, and you just record one video at a time. So I recorded the videos all with that. So the video part of it was actually really easy. The trickier part was that the audio with that app isn't anything great. It's just coming through your phone or whatever. Yeah. So I would record the video on my phone and then simultaneously record in this mic into Pro Tools on my computer.
Yeah.
And then I could kind of mix it in Pro Tools, make things sound a little nicer, and then realign the audio and the video after the fact.
I wish, and again, there's probably something like this out there, but I wish there was just a single application where you could record high quality video and high quality audio through like one device, and it goes into the application and it's just already synced up, and you don't have to fiddle around with things. You know, having this microphone and then having this webcam, or sometimes using my phone, and then having to download the video into a thing, and then having to fiddle around with the audio and a different thing, and then put them together in a separate thing. I'm not into it.
Yeah, I've had similar feelings. And one of the things that's I've been driven crazy by, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Is in iMovie, you can only get so fine of a grain to edit the video based on the frame rate. But audio editing takes place at a much finer scale. So if, there's 26 frames per second of video or whatever, I'm just making that up.
Sure.
But the audio might be down to like many, many smaller bits per second, So in doing exactly what I was talking about, like realigning audio with video, you can't move the audio in iMovie in such a fine detail to line it up perfectly.
Yeah.
So the way that I would have to do it is I would have to guess how much I needed to chop off of my audio, and then I would go to another program, chop off 0.2 of a second, bring it back into iMovie, see if that was right, and then just keep doing these tiny edits in Audacity of my WAV file, and then bringing it back. Then again, there's probably a much easier way to do that I don't know about.
Yeah, I find that's often the way, where even with like I'd been using Sibelius for years, I tell you, years I'd been using this thing.
Me too.
And then I was talking to a composer who knew things about Sibelius, and I was like, man, I was making these orchestra parts, and I was going into like the flute, because in the score the two flute parts are combined, but when you make parts you have to separate the flutes. It's like, what a pain. I had to go through, export that line, and then I had to go through the part and delete the second flute throughout the whole part in order to make a first flute part. It's the worst. And then he was like, well, you can just hit Control Command Shift 1 and that'll select all of the first flute notes.
Yeah. What was your response in that moment? Was it anger? Was it rage?
There was part of me that wanted to lash out, certainly. But I realized it wasn't his fault, because sometimes we hurt the ones we love, you know?
You mean you knew about this and you didn't tell me?
I think I had the insight in that moment to kind of stop and say, this person has helped me. This person has given me information I didn't know before. The reason they didn't help me prior is because I had not voiced these concerns to this person. However, I feel like I have voiced these concerns to people in the past, and they've been no help at all. And then I was able to kind of redirect my anger toward people in the past. So I was able to remain physically peaceful in the present. So I think that helped me a lot.
Yeah, that seems healthy, to keep your anger inward and directed at the past.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, that's not gonna cause any problems later on in life.
I don't see how. How do you deal with your anger, Ed?
How do I deal with my anger?
Yeah, this just got very deep.
It's just got very serious.
Hmm.
Do you want a real answer or a joke answer? I feel
Whatever
like it turned into a real question.
Whatever you want. Maybe a little bit of both. Sprinkle in a little jokey joke here and there.
The real answer is that I tried to think about emotions, particularly strong ones like anger, as a physical feeling. And so then I try to notice the physical feeling, like if along with that anger my stomach gets tense. I just think about the feeling, the physical feeling, and I just pay attention to that and think, oh, I'm having this physical feeling, but it doesn't matter. And focus on the feeling, not the emotion that goes with it. I'm making it sound like I'm a master of that. That's really hard to do, but that's what I try to do.
Sure.
It's just that was like a meditation technique thing that I worked on for a while.
Ah, I see. Now, in doing that, are you trying to subside that sensation, or is it just the realization itself?
Yeah, I think at least the way that I learned this technique, and I'm probably explaining it all wrong, I'm just going to make a fool of myself, but the way that I think about it is that it's just a feeling to notice and not something to try to change. Because then I feel like then it can sort of feed back on itself. Like, oh, I'm angry. Oh, why am I so angry? Oh, why am I always getting so angry? And this happens and this happens. You know, it just kind of it builds on itself.
Sure.
As opposed to, it's just this feeling, just going to feel the feeling and not react to it. That being said, it doesn't always work.
Sure. That's fair. I get real shaky when I get angry.
Really?
I don't get angry very, very much, but when I get angry, especially my legs will start to go, and I'll just be shaking, which is it's not a good look for an angry person, especially if you're like in a confrontation where you're doing something and you're trying to like make a serious point, but like your whole body is shaking, and they're just like, oh, he's like scared of me or something. Like, I don't know what's going on here. So I feel like if I was to notice the physical sensations of my anger, I would notice the shaking and be like, I gotta stop that. Like, I'd want to try to control that as much as possible, but it's hard to do sometimes.
Would you say that you are a non-confrontational person?
I would very much say that I'm a non-confrontational person. Yes.
I would say that very much about myself as well. And so I can totally understand that shakiness. I feel like I have a similar thing where if I've gotten angry enough or upset enough to the point where I'm actually going to confront somebody, even though I am so non-confrontational, that it's like I've reached this bubbling point that I just like can't even control myself anymore. Totally. And so maybe does that sound like a similar thing?
Very much so. It's like if I am like the people who live next door.
Okay, go on.
The people I share a wall with. Sometimes I stay up late, they stay up late, whatever. Sometimes I need to go to bed earlier. and apparently they don't. And so they'll just keep like playing the same guitar or bass loop over and over and over again, and like make beats on top of it. Every once in a while, I'll be lying awake in bed trying to sleep for like half an hour to an hour or something like that, and I'll just be like, just knock on the wall. Just knock on the wall, David. Just give it the 3 knocks. Boom, boom, boom. Just let them know that you're there and maybe that you don't like it. Just knock on the... I've never been able to knock on the wall. Can't do it. So when there's a situation, there have been a few situations where the initial reaction is, I need to confront this person. And then I do it. That's a whole other level for sure.
Okay.
I have a theory, and again, this is backed up by nothing. I have a theory that it might have something to do, at least for me, and maybe for other creative people, especially if we're performers or consider ourselves entertainers, that we're often in this mindset of wanting to please people, to be interesting to people, to make people comfortable and happy and have a good time. And when we start feeling things that go against that, when we start feeling angry, we don't want to act on that because we know that that's kind of going against what we typically want, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a sort of like people pleaser aspect.
Totally.
I mean, I think I have a car in the city, and I feel like I don't get very angry very often.
Yeah.
But the times that I do feel it bubble up is while driving. For a variety of reasons. It's really interesting. And sometimes I feel myself getting a little angry at pedestrians.
Oh, interesting.
Because they're trusting me more than I think they should. Not because I'm crazy.
Sure.
But because, say, I have a green light, but they just decide to walk across the street. That sort of a scenario where I think to myself, like, it could very easily be that somebody doesn't see you, especially at night when that happens. Oh,
sure.
So I see them, of course I'm going to slow down, and it's fine, but I feel this anger about, like, you shouldn't trust cars that much because we can't see you.
I feel like that's a very kind of parental anger. It's like, you should know better.
Maybe.
Like, I taught you better than that, you know?
I mean, maybe, when you say it that way, I mean, I guess maybe it's a little bit condescending in that way.
Maybe a little.
But that's something I feel. I also feel it towards drivers in New York City who do not use blinkers.
Oh, gosh.
That is a thing that when I first started driving in the city, I was like, oh, cabs don't use blinkers. They just go where they want to go.
Yeah.
And you just have to be ready.
For whatever.
I would find myself making like snarky comments to myself like, oh, if only there was some device that existed where they could have let me know that they were going to make that right turn. If only somebody could invent perhaps a blinking light.
We should get on that. Do you use your horn? Do you honk?
Wow. Occasionally I do.
Okay.
And it's usually when I feel something dangerous is happening that requires immediate action. And it's like I do it without even thinking. Okay. Like if somebody runs in front of the road or something, I would honk, or another car is pulling out and maybe doesn't know that I'm there. Yeah. I would honk. Sometimes another thing that happens, probably everywhere, but I feel like this is definitely a New York thing, is at a stoplight, maybe on the next block, say there's some construction or there's like a garbage truck or something that's going to block up traffic. People might start trying to just go in reverse.
Yep.
And so sometimes
a one-way road.
Yeah. And so maybe they're just counting on the fact that, oh, everybody wants this. So we'll all just go backwards at approximately the same speed and it'll just kind of work out. And, I've participated in this before. It's fine.
Sure.
But sometimes it can happen without any sort of warning. So I might be just like thinking, oh, I'm at a stoplight. The light's red for a second. I can take 2 seconds and change the radio or change the song on my phone or, talk to whoever's in my car. But then notice all of a sudden that the car in front of me is just coming toward me in reverse. So then I definitely honk then. Like, whoa, do you know that I'm not going in reverse?
Yeah.
I feel like that happens a lot too. Probably once a month that happens.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. Yeah, the further back you are in that line, the more confused you are as to what's going on. I don't honk typically. The only time I honk is if the light's been green and you're in front of me and you've been sitting there for like 5 seconds.
Sure.
Like,
yeah. I do
okay,
that
it's
too.
green. Come on now. But it's weird, like, even in situations, I feel like even especially in situations where, like, something immediately dangerous is going on, I would just much rather have both of my hands here and here than to, like, free up a hand and go, huh? You know?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I want to be more in control. Also, I think also my horn is like, like it's not like, you know, it's not like a good sound. It's like,
so that's really what's going. That's really what's going on.
I think that might be it. I think that might be it. Yeah,
You're embarrassed of your horn's tone.
a little bit. Do you think? I mean, I could probably just. Do you think I could take my car into a mechanic and be like, "Hey, can you just replace the horn?"
I just need a more authoritative horn.
Yeah, this one isn't
You have
cutting
to.
it.
I bet. Of course. I bet you could do it.
This is like the Woody Allen of car horns. It's like, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one time back in college, I had my parents' car. I was doing school in Rochester, and I was driving around, and a friend was in the car, and they thought it would be funny to reach over and honk the horn while I was driving. And so it was fine. Their supposition was correct. It was in fact funny.
Oh, okay, good. All right.
Because they just held it down. So we kept driving, and they just held the horn. And so the horn was then down for maybe 30 seconds.
Wow.
And we witnessed in that moment the horn die. Because the horn, it had like a decent whatever.
Okay.
But then all of a sudden, it was like it just had reached its limit, and it gave out completely, and it went like and it lost all of its energy and just turned into this weird, gross, guttural sound that was really soft.
Weird.
It was very funny, and it never recovered. The horn was forever broken.
Forever.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess it's not used to that kind of use.
Yeah, it was a long time. It was a lot to ask, and it died.
It died. I was kind of expecting like a
Yeah.
like a slow thing, but no.
That would have been cool too, but this was very sudden. At the time it was hilarious. I feel like I was crying with laughter.
That seems right.
Because it was so ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, Ed, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah. Likewise. Nice to see you. Nice chatting.
Yeah. If you'd like to hear some of Ed RosenBerg III's playing, you can listen to it on Pictures at an Inhibition, coming out April 30th in hard copy and digital and streaming and all that sort of stuff. And there will also be some links below where you can find Ed's things. Because sometimes you do things that aren't for my album.
I've done, sometimes.
Off and on.
Not really.
No, not so much. Not recently.
Cool.
Lovely.
Well, nice chatting with you, sir.
As always, have a good rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks.